Kenwood. No. Let's start with the story. The cake here is coming into its 10th year of business, which is pretty crazy. I was thinking just yesterday back to the very beginning of how this all started, kind of picturing myself back in this tiny little kitchen. You know, I had one stand mixer and I had just a few orders to fulfill every day. And I remembered when Kenwood sent me a K-mix, which was the first mixer I started to use that really changed the way I baked, basically. Before I received that Kenwood, I was using another mixer, which, you know, I don't even remember what it was. And as soon as I literally laid hands on that Kenwood K-mix, I realized that my business was suddenly a business because I could make the most epic cake with just this one piece of machinery. It's kind of weird to be that into just a piece of kitchen equipment, but I genuinely respect this stand mixer so much. I'm so proud to be an ambassador for Kenwood. It's the most genuine and honest brand relationship that could exist, because even if I wasn't an ambassador, I would still be using these machines. Yeah, thanks Kenwood for kind of shaping my business and for helping me get to where I am today. Today I'm going to make a spiced orange almond polenta cake, which is, you know, a bit of a classic, but I've sort of put my spin on it. And it kind of shows off the different attachments involved with my mixer. So the whisk is the main one I'm going to be using, and you'll see how effective it is and the different steps involved with making this cake. It's really simple, but the only thing is that it does take a little bit of pre-prep. So before I came to the kitchen, I boiled my oranges at home, because it does take about an hour and a half to get them to this point. And once I let them cool down, I pureed them just in a blender. And this is it. So this is going to form the base of our cake. The smell is just like filling the entire kitchen with orange. It's so good. The first step in making this cake is basically whisking your sugar and eggs into this crazy, like a voluptuous pale cloud. And to do that, we're going to use the whisk attachment. So let's get going with that. It's actually quite crazy what happens with this. So I'm going to add my 200 grams of sugar and my 3 room temp free range eggs into my mixing bowl, and just a little dash of vanilla extract in there as well. And then we're just going to get this going on high speed. It's actually so powerful that all this like wind is coming out the back of it, and it almost blew away my baking paper. I think that's the thing I love about this machine. It's like you're never afraid it's gonna start smoking and cut out on you. So this is gonna take at least 3 minutes, so bear with me. So I have whipped my eggs, sugar and vanilla for at least 3 minutes on high speed. So it's this very thick, pale, kind of interesting mixture, which is actually, it's going to be quite crucial not to now interfere with the amount of air that we've incorporated into this. So with the next part, I'm going to be really careful to just use a particular folding motion to get my dries and my orange puree into it. You'll see how I do that in 2 parts. So first step is to put about half of the cooled orange puree into this egg sugar mixture, like so. For this step, I'm actually going to use my flexi beater tool. Love this thing because you'll notice that the rubber bit around the edge is detachable, but what it does is it scrapes the bowl as it goes round, so you're not having to constantly lift up the bowl and manually scrape down. So it kind of does that work for you. Basically, we're just going to mix this on a very low speed because we want to be careful not to knock too much of that air out. And I'm going to stop it there. I just wanted to incorporate that first bit of orange. Next up, I want to add about half of my dry. So here I've got 200 grams of ground almond, 100 grams of polenta, and it's really important to get a fine variety if you can. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and then 1 teaspoon each of cinnamon, nutmeg, and ground cloves, and a pinch of salt for good measure. So we're just going to add about half of that, and same thing, just on a very low speed for just a matter of seconds. Get that incorporated. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to do a little scrape down, like so, and then I'm going to add the rest of my orange puree and repeat the process, just a few seconds. Okay, and then the rest of the dries. So by doing this in so many separate parts, we're just really being careful not to overmix and not to knock any of that air out, because we really want this to be a light and fluffy cake. Alright, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to finish it by hand. Oh my god, it smells incredible. Those spices. Make sure everything's incorporated. And that's exactly how it should look. Quite fluffy and light. Now, we've got 2 9-inch tins here, 9-inch or 22 centimeter. And I've got 2 parchment paper circles. A little trick of mine is to cut the baking paper out a little bit too big for the tin, and that way I don't have to spend time cutting out a perfect base and perfect size, and you actually end up with what's become quite a signature look for the cakes, which is these little ripples around the sides. It actually really helps if you have a bit of spray, oil spray, just to kind of help that paper stick down. Alright. And then all we're going to do is just evenly divide the batter between the 2 tins. Just eyeball it. You know, obviously in the kitchen we would weigh this out, but because we're home baking right now, we're good just to eyeball it. So do you see how big this is? Like, it's because of all that air that we got into the eggs and sugar, and because we haven't knocked any of it out, that now this cake is just this glorious cloud. So we're ready for the oven. We've got it on 180, and it's going to take approximately 30 minutes, but you know, as I always preach, every oven is different, so you really need to be careful. Keep an eye on it. Don't always, you know, treat my timing as gospel, because it could be different in your oven, you know. So let's get these in. And I'll set a timer for 25 minutes. See you in a sec. Okay, so I've got my cakes out of the oven, and I've let them cool for about half an hour until they're, you know, fully cooled. So now I'm going to flip them out. And then I'm going to make my whipped cream to ice it. Flip them out the other way. And we'll put 1 layer on our serving platter, or in my case, a cake disc. Oh, a little crumb. So to make this whipped cream, we're just taking 1 cup of whole cream, putting it straight into our mixing bowl with the whisk attachment. Whip that to soft peaks on high. The Kenwood mixer takes all the work out of it for you. Thank goodness. I'm just going to finish off this whipped cream with a dash of vanilla extract and half a teaspoon of cardamom, which goes so well with orange. And we're just going to give it one final whisk. we're good to ice our cake with this delicious whipped cream. We're going to put some of it in between the two layers, so less is more for this layer. Just with your palette knife or the back of a spoon, just spread it around to the sides. As simple as that. We're just going to put our top layer directly on top, and we're just going to finish it off with that cream. So easy, right? And then really you could decorate this however you want. Some orange zest. Use the whole orange. Kind of scatter that over as best you can. And then I'm going to decorate it with some pretty little things here. I've got some cinnamon quills. Just, obviously these aren't really edible, but they just look cool. Quite autumnal. Place them however you like. There we go. Some star anise. And just some bay leaves. Again, not really edible, but just look cool. And there you have it, my spiced orange almond and polenta cake made with my Kenwood mixer.